12:30 at the start at 2 o'clock. Let's head up and join Karun Chandok and Dave Croft.
Welcome along then, it's FP2 ahead of round 10 of the Formula 1 season in 2026, and from Silverstone we head to one of the other tracks, the 4 tracks still on the Formula 1 calendar from that first season in 1950, Spa-Francorchamps. It's a little shorter than it was back in 1950, however it's still the longest track on the calendar, and there it is, circuit elevation of over 100 metres. We drop down, we rise up, and we continue for 4.35 miles. Juan Manuel Fangio, the first winner here of the World Championship Grand Prix in 1950, Oscar Piastri, and the latest as McLaren completed a 1-2 last season. The tyres have changed a bit in the last 12 months from the Belgian Grand Prix of 2025. It was a C1, C3, C4, is now a C2, C3 and C4. It's the usual one step harder as we go from hard through to soft, and it was Max Verstappen, 3-time winner of the Belgian Grand Prix, who was fastest in FP1. First time this season that Max has led a practice session, first time we haven't had a Ferrari or a Mercedes. Is that a pointer to what might come later on this weekend? We'll probably find out after this session. Which Karun Chandok takes place in temperatures that are about 8 degrees cooler could have an impact.
It could. We've had a bit of drizzle, we've had a bit of sort of moisture in the air.
Rain. We haven't had any for ages. You've forgotten the word.
I have. Sorry. Rain. That's what I was looking for. But it's stopped now, and the track is dry. We just had Formula 2 qualifying on track. They ran on slick tyres. I actually walked down to watch F2 qualifying in Eau Rouge because I thought, I'm going to watch F1 sessions up here with you. So, I'll go down, watch some cars go up Eau Rouge.
Top idea.
Got all the way down there, red flag.
Your fault then.
So I saw nothing and then came back.
Oh, that is a real shame. I would normally say, why don't you just pop along now? But I need you for the next hour because it's just me and you and not Oscar Piastri at the moment, who is stood by the side of his car thinking, can you sort this hydraulic issue out, please, chaps? This is now getting a bit tedious.
Yeah, he brought the car back right at the end of the session into the garage, and that bought them a little bit more working time through lunch, but doesn't look like he's going anywhere at the start of this session.
Real shame for him. His teammate has a 10-place grid penalty for the race. He's got new power unit parts that are outside of his allocation. We also have a back of the grid confirmed for Isaac Hadjar at Red Bull because he's taken on more parts, and Lance Stroll gets a 10-place grid penalty for his new MG UK that they've put into the Aston Martin, and I'm told there might be more to come when Fernando Alonso hits the track as well, and new parts have been added to that outside the allocation. We'll keep you posted on that and any more that are to come. And down in the pit lane for us, Bernie Collins. Where are you, Bernie?
Well, Crofty, as you might expect, I am in front of Oscar Piastri's car. I heard you mention it there at the top of the show as well. Oscar Piastri not in the car yet. The car is still on what we call the high stands in the garage here. And just to the left-hand side of the car, the right-hand side as we look at it, you can see all of these brightly coloured tubes. That's actually stained water, if you like, that's in those. And you can see that system, that hydraulic system, still being worked on. It's still being bled through the system, and that's to get all the little air bubbles out. The guys at the front of the car are still working on the front brake ducts. They've most likely had to get into the brake system that also uses some of that hydraulic system as well, and on the very front end at the steering system. So many systems on a car use the hydraulics as their power for the system, if you like. and that's just meant that there's been a lot of work for the mechanics down here with that reported hydraulic issue for Oscar Piastri at the end of the session, like you mentioned. So it's still a significant amount of work going on as we hear the other cars fire up and get ready to leave the pit lane. I think they will get this car out. It doesn't look panicked. They're working through their job list. They'll have a certain order of components to get put back on this car to get it ready to leave. So he will get out, but like you said, it will not be at the top of the session. Probably I'd give it another 15 minutes maybe, because there's still no floor in this car. So 15 minutes into the session, I would say, at least, for Oscar Piastri.
Thanks ever so much, Bernie. 2025 Belgian Grand Prix winner, of course, passed his teammate on the first green lap of proper racing this time last year. And as the sun comes out, so do the cars as well, which is great to see. If there is, I mean, there should be a difference in the track temperature. We're just past 5 o'clock in the afternoon here, and teams might have set up with that in mind for both this session and for qualifying to come tomorrow. And a 7-degree change of temperature in the track can have quite an effect on the tyres. Was that a little slight lock up there from George Russell going into the chicane?
Yeah, you might get a bit of cold grab here. We often see that because you've got a long straight from La Source all the way to the bottom of the hill to Les Combes at the top, where you haven't touched the brakes. And when you first, especially on the outlap, go for it, sometimes they just snatch because they're a bit too cold.
Riding with Kimi Antonelli. Before we get going, just to remind you, if you want to ride on board with him or any of the other 21 drivers in this session, you can do so. Scan the QR code, that'll take you through to the Sky Sports app. You need the Sky Sports login, or if you're watching on Sky Q, Sky Glass, Sky Stream, or Now, use the interactive button on your remote control. Kimi Antonelli led the championship by 66 points after Monaco to Lewis Hamilton. Now just 25 points clear of George Russell, who's in second place.
I have the wrong visor on.
Okay, we'll get that changed after this run.
Does he need a bit more tint with the sun kind of a bit lower in the sky potentially?
Well, it looks like a tinted visor, so maybe it's too dark, but then the sun's coming back out, so I don't know. We'll see. He obviously wants something a bit different to what it is, but it's I think it's brightening up nicely. Look at that, the World Championship leader's car glistening in that sunlight as he comes up to Blanchimont.
It's perfect. 559 laps we've had in Grand Prix in 2026 so far. Kimi Antonelli has led 264 of them, but hasn't scored a point in 2 of the last 3 Grand Prix. So big weekend for him to come. Let's see how he tackles his first flying lap of this circuit with Kimi Antonelli and Corinne Chandler.
Yeah, Antonelli, as you said, Crofty, no points in Silverstone or Barcelona, but neither of them his fault. And in fact, he looked on course to win last time. So he's on great form in the cockpit, drops downhill, looking down from the helicopter. There's the F2 pits and the cars lined up on the left-hand side after their qualifying, and he charges up Eau Rouge. It's one of those things where if you look at it on a piece of paper, it's like Brands Hatch. It doesn't look particularly complicated, but the 3D versus 2D, there's quite a difference through Eau Rouge. As you get to Les Combes at the top of the hill and then move it right, Malmedy, the highest point of the circuit, and dropping sharply downhill. There used to be a bump always on the inside here. They resurfaced it so many times, but somehow that bump kept reappearing. But they do seem to have finally cured it. Just looking at the car through there on this occasion. Dropping down still through Rivage. Rear of the car really sharp there as Antonelli turned the wheel in. It responded very well. And up to the Fagnes chicane. Get the nose. There's a little drain just along where that curb is, and sometimes that can destabilize the car. Other times, depending on the balance, it can help you hook the nose in to that apex as well. So you can use that as a little trick if you need it. Through corner, Paul Frere comfortably flat out, and now up to Blanchimont. This is where you can see the wings closing as they come through Blanchimont itself. He'll go down a gear as he starts to harvest the energy, then pop the wings back into straight line mode, the active aero working, and then jump on the brakes for the bus stop chicane nicely there over the curbs, and he will run up to the line. This time with a 46.9 for Antonelli.
So 46.9 for Kimi Antonelli. Lap time from last year, not really comparable. We had a 42.0 as our fastest time in FP1 when we would have been doing some qualifying simulations ahead of sprint qualifying. Charles Leclerc goes second fastest. Lewis Hamilton goes off the track at the final chicane there, so that's going to hamper his progress on his first flying lap, and we'll get a replay of that in a couple of moments. Isaac Hadjar and Max Verstappen will be the next drivers to cross the line, both with new internal combustion engines and various auxiliary parts. Hadjar goes second fastest. He'll be starting at the back of the grid. Max Verstappen has more left in his allocation, so no penalties for him. Let's just make our way through this final corner. It's not as easy a task, Spa in 2026, as it was last year. And for both of the Red Bulls there, they end up behind Kimi Antonelli by about 3/100ths of a second. So we'll watch Lando Norris to the line as well, and we'll head trackside in a moment. Karun.
Yeah, Lando Norris a bit down in the middle sector of the lap, so it's very impressive to see just how tight it is at the top. George Russell a bit off, so I don't know if he made an obvious mistake, but he's over a second away from Kimi Antonelli. Let's see what Lando does. Up at the final chicane, late downshift there, just to the left apex to get the revs up, get a bit more energy in. Well, it's actually, by getting the revs up and getting the turbo spinning, you're not dumping energy, I should say.
So what happened to Lewis Hamilton then at that chicane?
Just too deep on the brakes.
Yeah.
No lock-up, but just didn't seem to get the retardation that he was hoping to have, and didn't slow down in time for the apex. One
of those things that you think, oh, is that driver error or not? And it's often a mechanical issue with the brake-by-wire system. This is Carlos Sainz, who has a Cadillac in his way.
What better? Just did is super dangerous. He needs to let 5 people earlier.
Carlos Sainz, who was reprimanded for crossing the white line at the pit exit and then coming back onto the track earlier. Not happy with Sergio Perez there. Right, let's head trackside, shall we? Karun went down to Eau Rouge, didn't see any cars at all. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that Martin Brundle has much better luck as we cross to him now.
I have indeed. Hello, fellow petrol heads or hybrid heads or whatever we are. Yeah, it's my favourite place of the year, but somebody's spoiled it a bit because there's now a massive wall and catch fencing where I used to sort of stand against the barrier, and the air pressure of the cars moved the barrier, and you could almost shake hands with the drivers if they weren't so busy. But we're still here, still very exciting. And what's different this year is about 2/3 the way down the hill, straight line mode ends, so the wings come back up again. That means the downforce and the ride height of the car will then go down just as they compress. Let's just wander a little bit further down here, Lee. Just as they compress as well into the foot of the hill. And the thing that really struck me when I arrived is there were no yellow marks on the track, as there have been through the ground effect days. But that's changed massively since they've started this session. I know there was a Formula 2 quali as well before this, but the cars are really low. I think the teams must have lowered the cars as well in the break, which of course they're allowed to do, and now they really are rubbing the ground. You can see the plank as we know it underneath the car. That's sort of that's the ride height control. If they wear that too much, then the car becomes illegal. But so yeah, close the wings, turn in, and they've got massive amounts of grip up there. I haven't really seen a car move around too much yet, but wow, are they carrying some speed and some energy. And this is one of those racetracks where if it does go wrong, it'll go wrong in a big way. The Ferrari, I haven't even coming out of the pits, I haven't heard a lift of the throttle. The drivers have got so much confidence in the cars. The cars have got so much downforce. Still, they're flying through here at an incredible speed, a lot of energy, and really lovely to see. You still get dust in your eyes and stuff coming off the plank as the cars stream past. So a great spot, and as ever the teams have managed this straight line mode, the wings going up and down incredibly efficiently, such that the cars have got a lot of stability. Luckily they finished that straight line mode a good couple of 100 meters before they have to turn in at the foot of the hill here. So there's no doubt that the aerodynamics will be fully reattached by the time they get here. Is there another car on its way? Here comes one, but it's going very slowly indeed. And a McLaren then turning up incredibly as the Alpine gets out of the way. I think that was Lando Norris, wasn't it? With total trust that Alpine was not going to turn into the corner. He had more trust than I did as they were approaching literally just underneath our feet here. So incredible spot as always. Back to you.
Love it. Thank you, Martin. About 192 miles an hour as the cars hit Eau Rouge and then make the climb up and over Radion. And yeah, Martin was right there. Total trust in Franco Colapinto from Lando Norris, who continues on his way. As that is happening, Max Verstappen is about to cross the line. He still stays within a tenth of a second of Kimi Antonelli, but can't get ahead of the Mercedes driver. We can switch on board now with Carlos Sainz.
Yeah, Max improved his first two sectors, but then lost a tenth in that final sector. And this is Carlos Sainz now coming up to the chicane. Great lap, by the way, from Arvid Lindblad, up into fourth place. So he's having another good start to his weekend, building on a tremendous run of form, really, from that team, Crofty, isn't it? Last few weekends.
4 consecutive Grand Prix now. Arvid Lindblad has finished in the points. 5 consecutive Grand Prix weekend, if you count the sprint race in Montreal as well, that Arvid has scored points. Back to racing pools in a minute, because I love the way they've sorted out the upgrade for this weekend. That just shows you these cars not on rails in the way that they used to be.
Yeah, I think that's great. The drivers are having to work quite hard. Front right tyre, look at the dirt on that tyre. So he then gets a big snap at the exit. Ooh, red flag.
I wonder if we've got a bit of gravel kicked up, and that's why we've got a red flag, and they need to get on the track and sweep it a little bit. Now this will be better news for Oscar Piastri, who's yet to go out on the track, and they're still working on his car, but at least they're working on it now whilst nobody else is going around. And yeah, there is that gravel right down at Stavelot and Curve Paul Frere, which used to be called Stavelot 2, so the second part of that corner. And quite clearly, Karun, you can't leave that gravel lying there on the racing line.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's a high risk of punctures around the circuit, a lot of energy and load going through the tyres, so we need to get that sorted. And you're right, a little bit of reprieve for Oscar Piastri, where he's at least not going to lose out on this track time. So he's lost one run, hasn't he? Hopefully they'll get the car ready.
My God, shifts, unbelievable, man. Why this? Unacceptable, this. My God.
Not happy again, Max Verstappen. Is it downshifts? Is it upshifts? Is it both?
He looks about as happy as when Simon calls you Dave.
Yeah, but Simon's doing it deliberately, just to provoke a reaction. I'm sure Red Bull aren't doing anything with the gear shifts deliberately to poke the lion, as it were, with Max Verstappen.
No, but I feel like it won't be a Friday if we don't hear some sort of complaint from Max about the shifts. It's, you know, they're tuning it all the time, and perhaps their way of tuning it is just, something that he feels should be happening a lot quicker. Maybe he's more sensitive to it than other drivers are. We know he's got tremendous feel of everything happening in the race car, but I feel like it's pretty much a given, isn't it? At some point of the weekend, we hear Max complaining about shifts in the car.
I think you could be right on that one. Either way, they can have a look at it as Max Verstappen returns to the pits. Red flag here at Spa. Verstappen 3/100ths behind Kimi Antonelli, who has the fastest time so far.
Keep watching.
Audi sponsors Formula One on Sky Sports.
AWSAI is leading innovation in sports. Now fans can dive into every detail of the Bundesliga. Understand Formula One strategy as it unfolds. See NBA insights that were once invisible. And get closer to every shot on the PGA Tour. How do the world sports leagues advance? AWSAI is how.
Hello, you. It's not nice when you're being dined out on, is it? Soaring bills can leave you feeling that way. At USwitch, our experts fight to get you fairer prices on your energy, broadband and mobile, keeping hungry beaks out of your pockets. USwitch. We put you first. Energy, broadband, mobile. Just drive.
Get that Euro Millions feeling with this Friday's £42 million jackpot. Euro Millions, it could be you.
All right, Dad. Boots up, lads.
Cheers, Big C.
It's happening again. This is madness in its rawest form. It's time we let it pour.
In life and in business, the goalposts often move. But at Accenture, we say, game on. Because whatever goal you're heading for, together, we'll get there.
I was listening to the ocean.
For half a century, greatness has gathered on home soil.
Take me home.
For the final major.
I think anybody's got a chance today.
For one final chance.
The magic and the drama here, and the beautiful sunny skies at Lytham.
Who will bring it home at the 50th anniversary of the AIG Women's Open? Live on Sky Sports.
Here's good timing. Liam Lawson is coming out. The red flag is finished, and we can just get on with some action on the track now. And for Nico Hulkenberg and for Liam Lawson, time to set a time. For Oscar Piastri, time to get on the track. This delay has kind of worked in his favour a bit whilst they work on the hydraulics issue. But we're now into that zone beyond the 15 minutes that Bernie Collins thought would take to fix the issue. And we'll wait to see if Oscar Piastri does indeed come out very, very soon. What's the secret, Kareem? When you're driving Spa, what is the secret to getting a good lap time in here?
It's actually about being smooth. You know, it's a track which has a real flow to it, and unlike somewhere like, you know, Monaco or even Budapest, where we're going to next, you know, Budapest is kind of like a big go-kart track. You have to be a bit more aggressive with the wheel. You have to get the car dancing around a little bit in that middle sector of the lap. This place is all about being smooth. That's why I think Max excels around here. You know, he's actually got a very smooth driving style, and you know, drivers like Charles Leclerc, you know, won his first race here, of course, back in 2019, I think it was. Yeah, you know, it rewards drivers who are smooth around here. Think of George Russell. I know he got excluded in 2024.
Got to the line first.
Yeah, and carried that one-stop strategy because of the smooth style that he's got. So I think that is the key to this circuit.
1.5 kilos underweight, George Russell's car, because he made that one stop, wore down the rubber more than Mercedes were expecting, wore the plank down a bit as well. And the minute the car was underweight, the minute George knew that win was going against him. Bernie, let's head down to you.
Yes, Crofty, let's start by saying I was wrong, Crofty, as you pointed out. It wasn't 15 minutes, it was 19 minutes.
Oh,
but
who cares
finally,
about 4 minutes?
Oscar Piastri is out on track. Good work by the McLaren team there to get him ready. But 19 minutes into the session, he has lost that first run, but he is about to get it back. So it might just cut his long run a little bit shorter later on.
Great to see Oscar Piastri making his way out onto the track. I went to the Speedway the other night, Corinne, to the Foxes at Northampton. Love a night at the Speedway. If you've never been, go for a night at the Speedway. It is a fabulous form of motorsport, so easy to understand, absolutely brilliant. What do they call it now? The Northampton International Shale Way, they call it, because it's kind of shale.
Okay. I've only been to Coventry to see it, and you're right. You have to remember not to stand right by the track, though, because you will get covered in mud.
Don't do that ever. But they were playing taking on Bellevue. Well done to the Aces for that, and thank you to my very good friend Mark Lemon, who is the CEO at Bellevue Aces, for inviting me down. I'm with Mark Webber. This is why I'm talking about the Speedway. And we were having a chat, Mark and myself, and I went, how you doing? He went, yeah, I'm all right, not bad. I said, phone a bit red hot, was it, on Monday? Yeah, it was ringing off the hook a touch. I went, right, anything to report? Crofty, I am sleeping soundly at night, he said. I'm sleeping easy, nothing to report whatsoever. I said, so Oscar's not going anywhere? No, mate, he's not going anywhere at all. I don't know where this story's come from. But Max and Oscar are about to do a driver swap, but there's nothing in it whatsoever. He said, we're set for the long haul. So straight from Mark Webber for you on that one. And not that I thought there was any different whatsoever, but the Twitter sphere did explode a touch with this story last week.
Yeah, and I don't think Max is helped it, because he was asked on several occasions over the last few races, will you be in Red Bull will you be in a Red Bull car next year? And he's not given a firmly committed answer, has he? So but Max Verstappen holds the aces. He holds the aces in this paddock. He is the driver that every team boss must talk to, must be interested in. And therefore, he can decide when he wants to make a decision.
There's a bit of devil's advocate in this next question as we're watching these soft tyre runs now. He, on form, I think, is the top driver out there at the moment. But is there a seat elsewhere for him? Or is it a bit more difficult to place him elsewhere than just saying, yeah, we want him because he's the best?
I think it's a difficult decision for him, because what have we learned this year? We've learned this year that actually being a customer team at McLaren is a disadvantage. And I don't think McLaren have any plans to make their own engines. Red Bull have shown that actually being a works team and making their own engines, they've been successful on the engine side, as Antonelli goes fastest by a big chunk. Max didn't really improve
Not in
his
that final
lap time.
sector again.
Yeah, and his overall lap time was a bit better, but Antonelli's the one who's made a much bigger jump. So I think, just to finish up on Verstappen, there's a choice, right? Do I stay at the team I know, and with a works engine program, new regulations coming again in 2030, subtle tweaks in between now and then, and do I just hope that they sort the chassis side of it out that allows me to fight against Mercedes? So, yeah, tricky decision for Max.
Certainly is. Let's head to the pit wall, shall we? The Williams pit wall. James Vowles is there for us. James, thanks for joining. Where are we standing after FP1? About the pace you expected from your guys or not?
Alex is where we expect him to be. With Carlos, we haven't got the car quite right yet. He's just a few tenths off behind that. But with Alex, it's about right.
And James, just looking at the weekend unfolding, can you maybe share with people at home how much are you guys able to preempt and sort of prepare the drivers in terms of where the most efficient way to use energy is? Because this year it's a whole new challenge for them, isn't it, in terms of do they use it up the Kemmel Straight with a long, and how much they keep in the tank for the middle sector? How much is your simulator numbers now correlating with what you've seen on track so far?
It's getting better race by race. Not perfect yet, though. So what we're actually doing is turning up here with a number of options. So the main areas of interest is the run up to Turn 3 to Eau Rouge, the run up to, as you say, the Kemmel Straight, and the other one is actually around Pouhon as well. And in the car, we've actually programmed 5 options, and subject to what happens on track, where we are, where our losses are, and even perhaps what we see to other competitors, we'll experiment with that and end up as an optimal. But by about now, we're in a pretty good place.
And you guys obviously have the Mercedes power unit. There's other teams out there. Is there a way that you can learn and feed off each other? Is there a benefit to being, a multi-team supplier for Mercedes?
I would say short answer, no. it's so complicated that each of us have a different way of working within the parameters the Mercedes provide that it's not really transferable.
James, thanks ever so much indeed. As we can cease that conversation, Lewis Hamilton, who James used to mastermind to a few wins around this track in terms of strategy, is about to, or has crossed the line and gone third fastest. Charles Leclerc, fifth fastest. The two Ferrari cars separated by about 0.3 of a second. As you mentioned, though, Karun, a big chunk there after those initial soft tyre runs between Kimi Antonelli and Max Verstappen. Now, George Russell, we are yet to see on his soft tyre run. He's out there on the track at the moment, but still on the medium tyre by the looks of it on our screens. That's half a second is a big gap.
Yeah, and wow, look at that big slide for Liam Lawson there as he came out of La Source. Let's have a look at the replay. This looks like it was earlier as well at Ravage. So it gets to no name. Oh, touches the gravel. Got away with that, I think but then again touches the gravel at La Source, I think, on coming out of it. It was a big slide. Yeah, big chunk. You're absolutely right. You know, for Kimi Antonelli, it looked pretty close to the medium, didn't it, on the first run? And then it feels like he's taken a big leap forward in terms of the lap time gain onto the soft tyre. Others have found sort of half a second-ish, and particularly Max about 4.5 tenths. But Antonelli's found a much bigger chunk, 7-8 tenths there.
That said, Verstappen still 0.3 ahead of Lewis Hamilton. New internal combustion engine for him in his Red Bull, not for the two Ferraris. It being a power track, you kind of want to have a fresh engine in there if you can.
Yeah, 100%. You know, this is a circuit where historically we've always seen people bring a new power unit. As you see, just to the bottom screen, that's where the old track used to go, isn't it? Yeah. You go down there to the Master Kink, I think they used to call it, the fast
Master
section,
Kink, yep.
all the way around the back. And yeah, I would have loved to have had a go around the big old track.
Well, I'm sure you could still drive.
You can still, yeah, you can still drive certain sections, but there's also roundabouts now.
Yeah. or chicanes, as we like to call them.
Well, yes.
As long as they're taken at the appropriate speed.
Yeah. So Russell, I think, went out on a set of mediums and then came and did a quick swap. I saw him in the background coming into the pits. So they've obviously done a fast stop to put him on the softs, and now we'll see what he can do. So he did only a 47.9, so he didn't do a particularly good time on the mediums. And now we'll see what he can do on the soft.
I think this is a big lap, isn't it? George can ill afford to be 2-3 tenths of his teammate throughout the course of this weekend, as he wants to kind of continue to take advantage not just of Kimi Antonelli's bad luck, but maybe loss of momentum in the points scoring. So let's see how he gets on. Preparation lap, absolutely vital here. You want your battery fully topped up when you cross the line. You want your tyres in that working window, which is a different working window to those medium tyres that he would have had on. Let's see how he goes. Soft tyres, Quali Sim, George Russell, Karun Chandok.
And see the wings popping open there as he gets down to La Source. Jump on the brakes, get the nose nicely in. We saw Lawson have that big snap on the way out. No such issues for George. Absolutely full of grandstand, isn't it, on a Friday? Fantastic to see so many people here, and a really international crowd here today as well, as we see George now up over radio, and you can see the light flashing already as he starts to harvest the energy, gets on the brakes, nearly 2 tenths down just in the first sector, which really these days is just one corner at La Source. You know, they're comfortably flat through Eau Rouge and Radio, and we'll see now as he comes into Ravage. Really important to have a good front end here, not only for the corner, but then to bring it back to the right as he does there. Bit of a wobble, little bit of rear instability as he drops downhill through No Name. You often get that just because of the way the gradient goes. The rear of the car always gets a bit light, and I think that might have cost George just a little bit. And that takes away your confidence because you don't know if the rear of the car's with you when you get to Pouhon, which is extremely quick in the next corner through the Fania chicane, and will now get the second intermediate time. So a 17.258 for Antonelli, and George a long way off there. Nearly 7 tenths, Crofty.
Yeah, half a second he's dropped in the middle parts of the lap. And But we're talking about you don't want to be 2 or 3 tenths down to your teammate. Unless George Russell puts in a barnstorming final sector here, he's going to be nearer a second than he is 3 tenths off. Bus stop chicane to come. Very different to the old proper bus stop chicane. Let's just call it the final chicane, shall we, for the moment. And George crosses the line. 1.2 seconds adrift in 6th place. And that is not what George Russell would have been looking for from his first flying lap, where you can make comparisons to his teammate. Arvid Lindblad goes 6th fastest, while Lando Norris puts in the best middle sector we've had so far. And Franco Colapinto goes 5th fastest, ahead of George Russell.
That's a good lap from Colapinto. I mean, the Mercedes power unit in the back of the Alpine should be an advantage for Alpine this weekend. They're in a big fight with Racing Bulls, aren't they? And we'll see the run up to the line for Lando Norris, who goes 2nd fastest. So McLaren starting to show their hand. They were a bit behind in FP1, seemed to be running a different program to the others, lots of aero testing. And now we're starting to see McLaren unleash a bit of pace.
With Piastri still to come in that respect. Now, Fernando Alonso looking there to see who's coming on a push lap. Max Verstappen tucks in behind him sensibly, because Carlos Sainz was that driver coming through on that push lap as he makes his way through the first part of the Stavolo double right-hander. And the Williams a long way back, 2 seconds off the pace. So we'll follow him to the line. But is this another weekend where Williams are going to be struggling a touch to get out of Q1 with either car? They haven't reached Q3 this year. Silverstone, the 3rd time this season, both cars didn't make it out of Q1. Sainz will dash to the line, cross it, only 15th fastest, with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to come who haven't done a time on soft tyres yet. Let's head trackside, shall we? Rejoin Martin Brundle.
Indeed you do. At turns 13 and 14, Fania chicane. Great little spot I've got here, right alongside the racetrack. Now, you often hear us talk about mini sectors, or if you're really keen on your data and you look it all up. So you can see those 2 scores across the track there. That'll be a little mini sector point. We've got a transmitter here just underneath me as well. So all the teams and Formula One and the FIA in particular know where everybody is at all times relative to each other and relative to their position on the racetrack. It's really interesting to see the cars here. There's quite a nice banking on the track on the way in, a little bit less in the second part of it. And you'll see when we get a car coming through here flat out, with the sidewall of the tyre tucks, as it's really got a lot of downforce, and the tyre, there's the Aston Martin comes through. A car that's really well sorted doesn't move. A car's always sliding a bit in a corner, it has to, and wheels are always spinning a little bit, but otherwise you're not anywhere near the limit of the grip. But the McLaren looked a bit tail happy through here, back end sliding a little bit. The Cadillac, I'd say, looks very much like that as well. And here comes a Cadillac on cue. You can just see that's got a bit less downforce in places where in the direction change. So you've got braking, turn in, direction change, pick up the throttle, and then ride the curb at the end. The only place I ever crashed a Le Mans car was right there. It is 39 years ago, but it still hurts. But we fixed it, and we managed to win the race the next day with Johnny De Vries, who sadly departed, and Raul Boesel, who is now a DJ in Brazil, believe it or not. Anyway, that's an aside. This is Formula One, and it's really interesting to see just how on the edge, on rear grip, the rear axle, that the Formula One cars are through this Fania chicane. And in the race, when their tyres are getting a little bit second-hand and they're pushing hard, it's these kind of corners where you make mistakes. Back to you.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you very much, Martin. While we were with you down at the Fania chicane, Alpine's form might have been confirmed a little bit by Pierre Gasly putting in the 9th fastest time so far, and then actually just had his lap time deleted. As I say that, Liam Lawson replaces him with the 9th quickest time, as Gasly's 1:47.3 was deleted. It was a very good final sector though, and that's not where he left the track. So there's more to come from Pierre Gasly if he keeps all 4 wheels within the white lines.
Yeah, interesting. Lindblad, so he did a 47.3 on the medium tyre, and he's not really gone that much faster, has he? He's only improved.
That.
Yeah, so that's unusual. He's only found 1/10 on the soft. So that's something for him to look at. He's still a 10th and a half ahead of Lawson, but that is pretty unusual. But here we go. Oscar Piastri, Crofty, you were talking about the McLaren run. And he's obviously now going a bit later than Antonelli. I can't remember when Antonelli did his best time. It was probably about 10, 12 minutes ago.
Yep.
So the track conditions are more favourable for Oscar Piastri, aren't they?
They've rubbed it in just a touch more. Temperature hasn't really moved at all. End of the first sector is now, and he's about 3/10 off, is Oscar Piastri. Through that first part of the lap, he's the last of the leading contenders ready to that were waiting for a time on these soft compound tyres. George Russell, by the way, saying that he felt that the softs were a little bit cold and not really up into their working window. He said, but they're not 1.2 seconds cold. It's a big margin that he is off his teammates. Maybe Oscar Piastri hadn't got his tyres in the right working window. We might see the benefits of an increase in temperature throughout this lap, and as he's not overdone it too much, we'll see what grip is there as we get to the end of the second sector. And that comes just outside, well, he's lost 6/10 in that middle part of the lap.
Well, he's also gone slower than he did on the medium tyres in the middle sector, so he's not actually improved, which is, again, a bit like Lindblad, a bit strange, because that's the sector with all the corners, the middle sector. So unless it's not in the window, or I'd be surprised if he's overloading the tyres. Sometimes you get that, you know, the soft wind, you put so much energy, you get this movement and overload the tyre. I don't think that's it, but yeah, he's along, you know, he's 6th fastest, but a big chunk away from Lando's time, 8/10 from Lando.
Yeah. And yes, it's the longest track on the calendar. We say that because when we look at the times, they might seem a million miles away, but they're not. It's because of the nature of this track. You do get kind of bigger gaps opening.
Here's a question. Are we seeing a trend here where we have tracks where Piastri and Russell struggle against their teammates? I'm only asking because I think in Miami, they were both a big chunk away from their teammates. I think of Silverstone, they were a big chunk away from their teammates. There do seem to be weekends this year where we're seeing bigger gaps between teammates, and
because
I'm not
is
sure
the insinuation there that their driving style, this is where Pierre went off the track, is that the insinuation that their driving style isn't necessarily suited? And if that is the case, well, George Russell won here, well, didn't win here, got to the line first here in 24, and Oscar Piastri did win in 2025. So
yeah, but very different cars.
Yeah,
and I don't know. I'm just trying to understand these gaps, because as you say, these are the people who crossed the line first in the last 2 years, and they're considerable margin behind their teammates. And I'm just trying to see, is there a trend where certain circuits we're seeing these gaps between them and their teammates, and then you go into, well, why is that? I mean, they both are pretty, you know, similar in terms of they're very smooth drivers. They don't, if I look at Lando or Antonelli, they are hustlers a bit more. You know, they have the car dancing around just a little bit more, energy. And, you know, Antonelli for sure has got the upper hand here on everybody.
Absolutely. It's not to ask the obvious question in Oscar's case, that he lost 19 minutes in the garage. Has that had a bearing on it?
It shouldn't do, really, at this level. You know, it's not like he doesn't know the track. It's not like he doesn't know the car. I don't think that should have a knock-on effect, but maybe these days with the energy stuff, just missing that chunk of running means he's less prepared in terms of how to best deploy the energy on a qualifying lap.
Either way, after the qualifying simulations, he does find himself a fair chunk behind his teammate, as does George Russell against Kimi Antonelli, who has the quickest time and the only driver in the 1 minute 45s.
Audi sponsors Formula 1 on Sky Sports.
Dave's just used Confused.com, so the thought of car insurance no longer weighs him down.
I don't want this.
Insurance feels better when you've just used Confused.
The Meal Deal Plus at McDonald's. Selected Savour Burger, medium fries, selected drink, plus a choice of 1 of 5 bonus sides. All for $5.59.
With Amex, do summer differently. Feel every moment and accelerate every heartbeat.
He spots the gap, and he takes it!
And strawberries at Centre Court. And even a bit of...
Quiet, please.
And losing your voice. And... because with Amex, you can unlock more access, more rewards, and more unforgettable moments at iconic summer events.
People see the races, the speed, the moments on the podium. But what they don't see is what truly drives performance. For me, it's the work of the track. The preparation, the focus, the recovery. Sleep is the foundation. Whether it's long hours of travel or intense back-to-back races, staying sharp and recovered is what makes the difference.
Right, I'll go get help. The green flag will be here soon, son. Trust me. Oh, come on.
Show us a sign.
Ah, there you are. A green flag arrived just after you left.
Green flag.
In a world full of noise and uncertainty, IG is the investment platform that backs you. Forget the dubious tips from that guy down the pub. Get real-time insights, analysis and tools. No more fat cat brokers clawing your gains. Pay zero commission on your investments. Switch to a platform trusted by investors for over 50 years. IG. Trade, invest, progress.
This one is the fuse in these three. I started posting science raps on TikTok because I believe music helps people learn complex topics.
Look at enzymes. Oh my.
Biological catalyst.
Now people all over the world are realizing science can be for them too.
You've been selected to join an elite CIA FBI fusion cell.
Special Agent Goodman, Colin Glass. You're a spy. Well, nothing gets past the feds, does it? We've got work to do.
Let me work outside the box and cut through the red tape.
Think of me as a legal criminal. You guys work in the open, we work in the shadows.
We both do it to keep our country safe.
Nice work, partner.
CIA starts Thursday on Sky Witness.
Just under 17 minutes to go here at Spa-Francorchamps. We're into the race simulations in this second practice session, and we're on board with our winner at Silverstone last time out, Charles Leclerc, a 9th win in what is 180 starts in Formula 1, 159 of which have been with Ferrari. Now the good thing is, it definitely means he'll avoid a 5th winless season in 8 with the Scuderia. But you think 9 wins in 159 starts with Ferrari. He would have expected a bigger return, especially on his 27 pole positions when he signed a contract for the Scuderia.
Oh, 100%. You know, there's in so many ways you look back at the last 20 years since Ferrari last won the World Championship with Kimi Raikkonen, and you look at it and go, have they underachieved in Formula 1? They've had great drivers, great facilities, fantastic budget. You know, there's so many of the ingredients that other teams have not had. And yet, since Kimi won that championship, we've seen Red Bull have great success, Mercedes have success, McLaren have success. Even Braun GP has won a World Championship more recently than Ferrari.
True. But you know what? Maybe this year.
Maybe
this year. Now, that could be heart, could be head.
Yeah.
Could just be the fact that they seem to have better consistency.
And reliability. You know, they are in this fight, let's be honest. their World Championship, but they were less reliable than Alonso and Renault. So, you know, that's part of Formula One. You have to be fast, but you also have to be reliable.
To finish first, you have to finish, as they say. We'll carry on.
Right corners hanging off. The boys, yeah, there you go. Turn the engine off, just stop, because the more you try and drive it, the more you put energy through that whole drivetrain, you're doing more and more damage.
As you can see, the blinking lights on his wing mirrors there to tell other cars that he is stranded and has experienced a problem, just in case he was facing around the wrong way. But let's have a little look on board as we drop through from Pouon to the Fagnes chicane. All okay at the moment.
He caught the end.
It was a glancing blow, wasn't it?
Yeah, caught the end of the barrier. It's
yeah, just absolutely lost it out of nowhere. Lost real.
So what would have caused? What has caused that? That's it's not in straight line mode, is it? At that stage,
no. It looked under control when he got to the apex. Then it looked like a fairly innocuous little slide to start with. He got on the gravel, but then didn't manage to slow it down enough or swerve the barrier. Just caught the end of that wall on the right.
That's quite the Friday night rebuild down at Alpine for a crew, and a Friday night confidence booster maybe for Pierre Gasly, who would like to know from the data exactly what went on there. We were going to head down to the pit lane, and Bernie Collins, let's do that with the cars coming in very shortly.
It's about to get very busy down here as we've got all the crews expectantly waiting for their drivers to come in. Of course, they're forced to go much slower under the red flag conditions, which is why it's taken a little bit of time to get them into the pit lane. And we're hoping to get one of the Ferraris, because what we wanted to show you is Spa is quite an unusual pit lane. Spa is unusual in many ways, but the pit lane is one of the ways that it's unusual. And it has this sort of stepped gradient formation. So if Kieran can turn around, hopefully on the front right corner where the Ferrari would come into a pit stop, you can see there's a little bump there, and it means that the front right tyre would be much higher than the rear right tyre, and that is an issue. That's something they need to practice coming into the pit stop to make sure, as we just get Leclerc coming now, just to make sure that that doesn't upset the car, or that tyre doesn't end up being off the ground at the point they do the pit stop. I actually watched Aston Martin earlier. Because of how the bump in their pit stop, they couldn't actually get the car onto the skateboards to get it into the garage. They had to push the car forward in order to get it on the skateboard. So lots and lots of tests go on in the pit lane, as we know, from an aerodynamic side, from a car side, but also these little intricacies of how the track is positioned, and these little bumps is very important for drivers to practice stopping on the marks and get it right for Sunday, because like you say, one stop, it could be very crucial how it goes.
Certainly could. Thank you, Bernie. We just saw the doctor making his way to have a chat with Pierre Gasly. The impact would have been such that there would be an automatic recognition releasing the medical car to go and check. I think Pierre Gasly seems to be none the worse for it. It was very much a glancing blow against the tyre barrier, where the tyre barrier wins every single occasion on that one. The rear wing doesn't. And it's given us this red flag. Now, obviously, a lot of debris on the track. Accident like that, you're going to get a red flag. Let's say, it was a glancing blow and Pierre Gasly just went off into the gravel, and we had double waved yellows. We might have needed a safety car. We could have had the safety car out like we did at Silverstone. I want to discuss the Silverstone safety car with you, is basically what I'm trying to allude to. But actually, let's head down to the Fagnes chicane, because Martin Brundle's still down there. That's a lot of debris, Martin.
A lot of debris. The rear wing just coming off the track. That's exactly the point where I told you I crashed the Jaguar. The Alpine's been quite flighty. Remember I was saying about cars that were a little bit loose at the back through the second part of that Fagnes when we were looking at it. And there's also bits of advertising hoarding. This green H here is just going off the track, and there's still an awful lot of debris, little bits and pieces out here near the fire and rescue. So we'll go round the corner now, maybe pick us up in a minute. We'll go round the corner, see if we can find the car.
Thanks ever so much, Martin.
You off me now?
A lot going on down there. A lot for the crew to clear up. We have got 9.5 minutes. Let's discuss safety car. Silverstone, not the best end to a race.
Yep.
Although the rules were followed.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I was in the grandstand at turn 1 with my kids watching the race with the fans in the grandstand. And it was the hope was that made it tricky for everybody, because we got the message saying the race will restart, and then got the message that, well, actually we were all sitting there watching, oh, the safety car's gone past the pit entry.
Yeah,
it's not going to restart.
And that's when the boos came out.
And the boos all around me. And I can understand that, right? Nobody wants, we were set up for a fantastic final lap. Lewis on fresh tyres against George, and it would have been really exciting, but we didn't get it. Now, you're right in saying, of course, the rules were followed. But I think the question is, if they had called for the lap cars to overtake and unlap themselves a lap earlier, then we could have had the restart. And I think that's what perhaps needs to be the learning out of it. Could they have called it a lap earlier? I mean, I went back and watched the onboard of this man's car being extricated out of the gravel trap. Max Verstappen's car was being pulled out, and we it looked like they could have, I think, cleared the car. They were on their way to clear the car out of the gravel, and it looked like the marshals were on their way to get Max's car into a safe position. And it was probably 3 minutes later that the call came for the lap car. So I think there's, and the FIA have many more cameras and much more information than we do, of course, and they have many more ways of making these decisions, and they have the authority to make these decisions. But I think that's the question being asked in this paddock and being asked by the fans is, could they have called for the lap cars to be unlapped a lap earlier, in which case the safety car could have been pulled into the pits a lap earlier, in which case we could have had that final lap of racing.
Do we need to write into the regulations a way of ensuring that we don't finish behind a safety car unless, there is absolutely no chance of restarting a race? Do we red flag a situation like Silverstone, bring everything to a halt, and then go again for 10 laps or however much is remaining?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a discussion that needs to be had. Think of Baku 2021, where we had that late red flag. And
how exciting was that?
It was super exciting.
For the restart.
Lewis made the mistake on the restart. Checo came through to win. It was super exciting. And so maybe there is that argument, right? If we're going to have a safety car in the last 5 laps of the race, let's just red flag it and have a standing start instead. So I think there's a really good argument, because a standing start is exciting and it's good for the sport.
Yeah, I don't want to see the dampest of damp squibs. But I understand the safety, and I'm glad the rules were followed.
Yeah.
But if we can write into the regulations a way of not having that, then we're all happy. Maybe even Charles Leclerc if he'd have won out, but he was definitely happy with the way it finished. Martin, you still down there at that turn? That's extensive damage at the rear of that Alpine.
Yeah, it's very damaged. It looked a very sad puppy sitting on the racetrack. It's always interesting to see the weight distribution of a car when it's lifted in the middle, but of course that one's missing a rear wing, but it was actually pretty well balanced just on that one pivot point. So now they're clearing up the track underneath us. They've got a great big blower on the front of that John Deere tractor over there. So great work going on down there to make this racetrack pristine and safe again, putting some powder down on top of where it's leaked some fluid out the back of the car as well. And so hopefully we'll get a few more laps in before the end of this session, as the breakdown truck will be nearly ready to head on. I would imagine it's going to go to Stavolo and turn left and get out of the way. So we're actually quite a long way here from where he hit the wall. So he carried on through the corner, I guess hoping he might get that back to the pits, but that wasn't going back to the pits in a month of Sundays, and that's a very long time. So, yeah, really sharp work going on there. Everybody knows what they're doing. Here comes the blower, which is going to blow the gravel in our direction. And that is one big tractor for a little blower, isn't it? But it looks incredibly effective down here. And when that thing, yeah, is pointing the nozzle as now, I think we might throw back to you and get out of here, actually, before we get showered in gravel and cement dust. And we're looking good to go. So, one broken Alpine, one fixed racetrack. Goodbye.
Thanks ever so much, Martin. Size of tractor there that Martin's mate Jeremy, I think, would sit in quite happily on that one. Yeah, we'll have the debate. Maybe we'll carry on talking safety cars and changes to regulations on the podcast next week. You doing the podcast next week?
I am. I believe I am.
Excellent. We'll reconvene on Tuesday, because I'd just like to see a discussion had, like yourself, as to can we, as a sport, do something to help provide entertainment right the way to the finish. I get that it's live sport and you can't manufacture entertainment all the time, but if you can, with no hindrance to the actual racing, then why not?
Yeah, it was really interesting, Coffee, to be honest, having the British GP experience as a fan. I watched all the 5 sessions in the grandstand with my kids, which is the only weekend of the year I get to do it, and I love it doing that. And, you know, thankfully our friends at Sky are happy to let me have that time. And it is really interesting, actually, being in the stands, watching the reaction of kids, watching the reaction of the die-hard fans, you know, when we see the overtaking and stuff. And I think, you know, we're very lucky that we have these wonderful commentary boxes and we're in this environment.
It's great to sit
but
in stands.
It is great to actually get genuine almost real-time feedback of what people think when an overtake happens and
I
stuff.
had some brilliant feedback. On Tuesday night, I was talking to someone who was in the Lando stand, and they said, oh, we had the best experience. You know, all the Lando fans, but we were cheering for everyone. It's great. But obviously, a lot of people, you know, were there because they were in the Lando stand. Trouble was, we had no idea which one was Lando when he came up to the Lando stand, because McLaren changed the colours of the car, and it was really difficult to tell. And that is a valid point, quite frankly, because it wasn't anything like Papyrus. It was the green and white.
Yeah.
And the numbers aren't exactly very big on the side of cars as well. Maybe something to think about in the future when it comes to special liveries.
So I was sitting, as I said, in the stand, and my wife said exactly the same thing.
Really?
And I said to her, I said, well, actually, you know, in the commentary box, you can see here, great. The cameras on the top of the car, they're different colors, they're either yellow or black. But actually, it's quite hard to spot that from the stands. And then she said to me, why don't they paint the halos different colors? Why don't teammates have different color halos?
What a fantastic idea.
And I was like, actually,
yes,
that makes a lot of sense.
Because you could still have the sponsors' logos on them as well.
Yeah. So actually, you just need to have the halos in different colours, and it'll be much easier for the fans to spot.
Not for the first time in her life, Mrs. Chandok has come up with a sensational idea. We're getting going, basically, so the cars can come out onto the track and do a lap and then do practice starts at the end of it. Kimi Antonelli will have the fastest time. I love that idea.
Yeah, because I said to her, well, actually, we used to be able to spot the drivers' helmets really easily.
Can't now.
And it's hard now, isn't it?
Also, here's a great example. Here's Lando Norris, right? And you've got the yellow camera at the top. Why is it not yellow all the way round?
Yeah.
Because sometimes you don't see the front or the back, you see the sides.
Yeah.
Right, okay, so you've got the yellow on the side, but there's bits of black on there. Just wrap around the whole thing. Make it easy for the fans.
I think the halo is the way forward.
Yeah, look, just a little bit of yellow there. Put yellow underneath as well. I know you've got to have a hole where the camera is actually poking out of, but make it yellow all the way round.
Well, Ferrari used to do this thing, didn't they? The late 80s, early 90s, where on the front wing, one car had fluorescent yellow stickers on the front wing flaps, and the other one was black. So you could quite easily tell which one was which. So, yeah, I think, as I say, it was really fun to have a fan experience, and really actually illuminating as well, to pick up things that we perhaps take for granted in the in the way that we do it, because we see the cars week in, week out, and we are up in the commentary box.
Well, thanks to everyone that's given us feedback after Silverstone as well. Brilliant to see 564,000 racing fans at the 4-day F1 festival that was the British Grand Prix. I hope to see you all back again next year. It was a magnificent weekend. And, yeah, well, we thoroughly enjoyed ourselves, and I hope you did too. More of this chat on the podcast. Let's chat about what we've just seen for 60 minutes. Frustrating session, really, because with a couple of incidents, with the gravel being cleaned up, with Gasly's incidents, we didn't get the full picture. Maybe Oscar Piastri, not with the greatest lap. George Russell, not with the greatest lap. They'll come, I think, back into the picture tomorrow. But Kimi Antonelli, the championship leader, did get his fastest lap in and did get everything right. And, well, 2/10 clear of Lando Norris, who's going to take a 10-place grid penalty, which seems a real shame if the McLarens are the closest thing to challenging the Mercedes for a victory this weekend.
Yeah, exactly. 4 different teams in the top 4, 5 different teams in the top 7. So that's good to see. But definitely bigger time gaps than we're used to seeing this season. I know it's the longest track of the season, but we don't actually have that many corners around here as well, which suggests to me that the teams will be doing a lot of number crunching about the energy deployment and trying to find the best way. There'll be a lot of work done overnight in the simulators and the factories back at base, and I don't think it's a given that we're going to see the same picture tomorrow. I think there's quite big time gaps. There's a lot of potential to unlock, and we shall see. We shall see. I'll be surprised if Verstappen is that far away from Antonelli.
Led the last 8 consecutive Grand Prix has Kimi Antonelli. So despite some of the bad luck, his driving has always been there, and he has always been right at the sharp end. I'm kind of with you. I'm thinking, what have Red Bull got in terms of an answer? And they're a team that quite often turn it around on a Friday evening.
And Ferrari, I have to say, Ferrari, I feel this year, Crofty, have been different to the last few years.
Yep.
If you think back last year and particularly the year before, they were generally quick on a Friday and then sort of flattered to deceive. But let's think of Barcelona. Let's think of, Silverstone. They didn't look particularly. Silverstone, they were strong because it was a sprint weekend, slightly different. Yeah. But I think Austria, for example, there's a lot of weekends where they haven't looked great on a Friday. And then we got to quali in Austria, and they were 2nd and 3rd in the grid. And Barcelona, Lewis won. So I'm interested to see what Ferrari can do tomorrow.
And both drivers, I think, expressing their surprise on both occasions at the turnaround that we had. Like a decent start, not too much wheel spin from Charles Leclerc.
Yeah, I mean, Red Bull's the one that needs to work on their starts, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
And maybe Antonelli as well. He's had better starts than he had at the start of the year, where he was really not very good off the line, but actually,
and often with lots of different little issues as well. It wasn't one big issue that was dictating all of that.
But even at Silverstone, he got beaten off the line, didn't he? And
Ferrari won too, going into the first corner. Where would we be without a Ferris wheel at the racetrack as well? Not just Suzuka. We had one at Silverstone. We've got one at Spa as well.
I bet that view is unbelievable, though.
Do you fancy a little evening jaunt over to the Ferris wheel?
Yeah, why not?
Or could I invite you to dinner on a truck?
Listen, you are my tour guide. I will follow you.
Right, we'll go and do the tour guide. The cars depart, leaving. George Russell already pointing his car to the right-hand side and thinking about the race at the weekend. And his teammate Kimi Antonelli, who looks to see what George is up to. And he should have exited the grid now. I think he has.
Yeah. George was sort of parked like how Checo was parked in Monaco, wasn't he?
10 seconds worth of time penalty badly, sadly, on that one. And then there were 4. And all important, these, because there is an area for practice starts, but it's downhill as opposed to the actual starts themselves, which are uphill.
Yeah, no, it's really important to get this data on the actual grid with the right amount of rubber, and that was a very good launch for Kimi Antonelli. If he does that on Sunday, he'll be very happy. I mean, let's remember, you don't want to be on pole here. We see it so often, don't we, that drivers who start on pole get beaten, as happened last year, I think, wasn't it? Oscar beat Lando.
Well, we had a wet start, didn't we?
Yes.
It was basically when we got to a green flag and we got racing, and that's when Oscar took his chance. But yes, you have a whole Kemmel straight of slipstream to try and make your way through. Thanks, Karun. Great to have your company today. And Kimi Antonelli picking up where he normally leaves off with the fastest time, and the only driver in the 1 minute 45s, a couple of tenths clear. Lando Norris, Max Verstappen third fastest, then Hamilton and Hadjar and Piastri all within a second, after which Franco Colapinto was already faster than his teammate Pierre Gasly before Gasly's lap time was deleted, and he ended up then crashing at the end. So his best time was set on the mediums. Ollie Behrman 12th, he was 13th in P1, I think. Valtteri Bottas and Sergio Perez for Cadillac, ahead of the two Aston Martins, who had the slowest time once again at 5.5 seconds. Separated the field with Kimi Antonelli, the championship leader, the man they have to catch so far this weekend.
Yeah, another session where the young Italian shows the rest a clean pair of heels, 1:45.944, a couple of tenths ahead of his nearest rival in that, less than 2 tenths. Okay, this is what we've got to look forward to this weekend here on Sky Sports F1.
So, song that reminds you of your childhood?
I would say Hysteria, Def Leppard. So when I was young, the first concert I ever went to was Def Leppard.
Where should we start? Should we start with Kimi? Start with the crash. Let's start with Kimi. Because we talked right before this session about how important it was for George Russell to try to get ahead of his teammate, but there is a huge gap between them, 1.3 seconds in quali trim.
Yeah, George won't be happy with that at the end of the session, was it? It was another masterclass, like Crofty said at the end of the session there from Kimi. Really good lap. He got the most out of the soft tyre. The soft did appear to be a one-lap tyre. I didn't see anyone really get a second lap, so obviously is a bit suspect to, let's say, having your energy in the right place, having the tyres in the right place. We heard lots of complaints about being too hot or too cold. So yeah, George just didn't get it all together, so a lot of work to do overnight to figure out how to get the best out of that soft tyres.
And that's the thing, though. I feel like for George, it's just so much head-scratching, isn't it? When Kimi's just coming in at the moment, it's just bang on, it's there from the start of the weekend, isn't it? And I feel like George, sometimes he's chasing his tails from the start of the weekend.
Yeah, it probably feels a little bit more like this is just coming a lot more naturally to Kimi, whereas George feels like he needs to go back to the drawing board a little bit on the way he operates in the race car. But as Bernie was pointing out, there's a couple of factors. Obviously, this is a really long circuit, so
yes,
your out lap is really long. You've got higher tyre pressures with these Pirelli tyres this year, and so that single lap, you've got to get everything right. So it'll be interesting after the session to look at the data and see whether George just had, you know, great theoretical sectors, but hasn't put it all together.
Which
maybe.
George does. But although he did say a couple of weeks ago, didn't he, when in Austria, he'd just driven without over-analysing the data. I wonder, though, when you have a gap like that, how much you do tend to, as a driver, will he be poring over it with his engineers?
Yeah, I think tonight they all come back, all the drivers come back and look at where they could lose time. They overlay their 2 laps to see where they're braking, how they're turning, how much aggressive they're going on throttle. All of these little things they will look at and they will analyse it. And I think Naomi's probably better to answer that than me, but there is a time for looking at the data, and that is now, overnight, and then there's a time for using the head, and that's in the car tomorrow. So you need to not be thinking about the data in the car.
Yeah, and I think one of the issues is obviously when you obsess over the data, it starts to become less instinctive in the car and a lot more like, okay, 5 meters there and lift off the throttle slightly there, and you start going into it a lot more mentally and not so much following your own instincts. But by the sounds of things, that's a lot the way these drivers have to go racing in these cars anyway. So good thing for him, though, is he's got Antonelli as his benchmark, so he can look at the data and figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. Right, not much had happened out on track today until Pierre Gasly put it in the wall. It was a big crash, this, as I was saying, as Karun was mentioning, got it stopped so that to try to limit any damage to the gearbox at the back, but looks like that could have done a bit of damage to the gearbox anyway.
Yeah, I think when you have an impact like that, anytime that you see a rear wheel looking like that, any gearbox designer
is thinking.
Yeah, it's a little panic.
Actually, I mean, to be fair to Pierre, he'd put in a decent lap. He was inside the top 10, and then he had that lap deleted. It's really interesting, actually, keeping an eye on the head of that midfield now between Alpine and Racing Bulls. It's competitive most weekends.
It is, and it's, you know, they truly are the best of the rest. And I think about a year ago, we were thinking, you know, maybe it is a good idea for them to go with the Mercedes power unit, but tough on everybody back at Viry and, you know, giving up their own engine. This year it's proven to be a very good decision for them because they've been through some tumultuous times and they are slowly bringing that team back to constantly being at the front with an aggressive plan to get to the top.
Apart from Lando then, who's within a couple of tenths, almost half a second, can you see those other teams finding it overnight versus Kimi?
Yeah, I think this is a circuit where they've got a lot of data on it. They will go dig through it tonight. We've seen lots of them playing with aerodynamics, front wings, rear wings. So the time is there to be found. The chase is on.
It is. There we go. That's a few of the highlights of this afternoon, and we'll have a fun-packed hour in the F1 show. That's next here on Sky Sports F1. Back tomorrow with more live action with Practice 3 from 11:50.
Audi sponsors Formula One on Sky.
No one knows Asia like we do. DHL. Excellence. Simply delivered.
This is so wild that I actually, from a dream, started a business. I don't think I could ever work for anyone else ever again.
I'm just trying to move forward. So I'm planning on having a girls' weekend. To the tuck.
Your husband just died and you made us gift baskets.
This is how I do. Your best friends in the world are here. What do you want to do? Have a goddamn pajama dance party.
Audi sponsors Formula One on Sky Sports.
Welcome to Spa, the mecca of motorsport, deep in the Ardennes forest.
Some of the best corners, some of the fastest straights. Each has history, has heritage.
It was incredible.
It's a place I always love and enjoy.
It has not stopped raining. Jeopardy everywhere you look.
Something crazy.
Come on, baby, yes! Oscar Piastri wins the Belgian Grand Prix.
Nestled deep in the heart of the Ardennes forest lies one of Formula One's greatest stages. Spa-Francorchamps is fast-flowing and unforgiving, where iconic corners, unpredictable weather, and fearless commitment have created some of the sport's most memorable moments. Well, welcome to the paddock here in Spa for the F1 show this evening. I'm joined with Bernie Collins, of course, and Simon Lazenby. Are you guys happy to be back in Spa? This is obviously my home race, so I'm slightly biased, but good to be back, Simon, after a while.
It's great to be back. Lando's mum's here. She's also Belgian. Siska's just up there. I just noticed her. I love Belgium. This is the point of the F1 show, of course, where we show you around the paddock. It's not too much to show you in the Spa paddock. It's not quite like Las Vegas, but that's not a bad thing because we love Spa.
I love being here. It's a nice, relaxed atmosphere after the madness of Silverstone. The fresh air. We've had a sunny day today, largely sunny day, a tiny bit of rain just to make sure we know that we're in Spa. But it is one of those, I really like the atmosphere here. Lots of fans, lots of camping, all walking in as we come in the morning. So, yeah, I like Spa.
Dare I say proper fans?
Yeah, I would say this is where the traditionalists like to come to. And I want to just point out on what you just said there, Simon. I think that there's a thing to be said about quality over quantity.
Yes.
You know, in this paddock, you do have waffles, you've got French fries, you've got a good coffee stand, and then you've got the beautiful view of Radion. So what more could you ask for?
Also, I did notice that one of these sponsors, well, I can mention it, can I? Louis Vuitton's they've got an installation up there, so we can go and try and bag us a free handbag or something like that from up there a little bit later. Yes, it is. Yeah, we're in the heart of the Ardennes forest. The thing you don't actually get from the TV pictures all the time is the elevation changes here, do you? When you look down to Eau Rouge, and then, I mean, I've run the track here. It's a slog.
Did you regret when was that?
A long time ago, up to the top of Lake Com. I mean, because it's just that gentle, like this. It's just the gentle gradient that keeps going forever and ever.
The problem is, you get to the top. You know, from Orange up Radion, you get to the top there, and you think, well, that's I've done now, and then it just keeps going and going and going and going.
It does. Quick look at that, Pete. Do you
I
think
really
they're
like
lifelike?
these.
I think those are really good. I think the Lewis one looks a little more realistic than the Lando one. Lando's eaten a bit too many waffles there, I think.
So the lady on the left in the colourful dress, these are her paintings. So she's been painting them live in the paddock today. I took some photos earlier, but she's been doing an amazing job with these.
That's
I
very
really,
good.
really like it.
They are great.
You got to say hello, Simon?
Can you speak English? This is very good. How long did they take you?
I started at home. It took me maybe 6 hours per piece, and I'm finishing them here live. But it was raining, so I had to stop, and I'm back at it.
Have you done every driver?
I have done maybe 10, and I just got Pierre's dad, who told me that I painted it 4 years ago, and it kept the painting at home. It just told me that, so that was very beautiful.
Brilliant. Can you do David Croft for us?
I can do anyone.
We'll get Crofty to come and do a sitting later, because I would pay to see that, wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
Good. Where
Good
else
to
should
see
we
him
go?
sitting for long enough to do the photo, maybe.
We can sit still. We can stop talking, did you say, for long enough?
I didn't say that. You said that. You made that. You added that
Okay,
bit.
right, I did. Should we go and see Craig? He's with some fans, I think.
Yes, thank you very much. Amazing vantage points here at a sold-out Spa. I come here every year. It's the rocks overlooking the bus stop chicane. I'm going to try and scale my way all the way to the top, if I can, chatting to some fans on the way. We've got Mary here, supporting Lando Norris. Bit of a grid penalty this weekend. What can he do?
We will wish luck for him and hope he do a good quali.
And this is a nice place to watch. Good.
Yes, it's a very good place.
Enjoy the day. No rain so far. Got Ryan and Sam here. Maybe the camera can come round. So yeah, I mean, you get great vantage points here. What about the prospect of a British win this weekend?
I think it's going to happen, isn't it? It's got to. Lewis Hamilton's racing really well at the moment, and then we've got George Russell as well, haven't we? So, yeah.
George needs to somehow get the upper hand at Mercedes. He's working hard at it, but it's not easy, is it?
No, and I'm not a massive fan of Russell, but Antonelli and Lewis this season, if one of them wins it, I'll be well happy.
Fair enough. Okay, I'm going to keep going higher and higher. Hopefully you can still hear me. Not much oxygen around here. It's really elevated. Maybe you can come around and see me there, yeah. But I mean, yeah, lots of Charles and Lando fans here. Not too many Verstappen fans. Are they all somewhere else?
I guess so. Probably over there. But I mean, I like him, but it's not my favorite driver. But he's still half Belgian, so I take it.
And Lando, of course, Belgian mother. Yes, yeah. So, got the grid penalty. At least it'll be exciting watching him making some overtakes.
Yeah, I hope so, because I saw it yesterday. I was like, oh, shoot. But I finger crossed he can overtake and maybe be in top 5. That would be great.
Great stuff. Well, I'm going to try and get right to the top up here. Just, I've already kind of scouted out here. We've got Julie at the very top. We've spoken to some Lewis fans, some Lando Norris fans. What a view you've got up here, Julie. And you're right at the top. That's where Charles Leclerc was at the end of the British Grand Prix. Can he do it again here?
I'm sure he can. I'm sure he can. Yes.
How hard has it been watching him struggle a little bit this year, and has he turned the corner?
It's always hard to see him struggle, but I'm a Ferrari fan, so I'm used to it, sadly.
Well, listen, great views, great fans, very knowledgeable fans. We'll give a big wave to the camera down there.
So here we are in La Maison, LVMH. Simon is shopping around for a bag for his wife, I think, but I think he seems to have left his credit card somewhere. What's going on, Simon?
I've always mysteriously left my credit card somewhere. This man is doing some great work, though. It's building it. I mean, this is a watchmaker extraordinaire. How long will it take you to make a tag?
So here for this movement, we're going to dismantle, do the repair, clean and reassemble. And everything has to be set in a day or in 1.5 days. It depends.
Wow.
Look at I love this, because obviously
engineer.
I love gearbox, yeah. Look at all these tiny little gears and these tiny mechanisms. Like and the tools that you have to use, the patience. This is not a job for you, Simon.
I mean, I wouldn't be able to do it anyway. What with my eyes?
Yeah, I was
How good are your eyes? Does it strain your eyes doing?
No, but actually I like to do it without any magnifier, so I can, keep sharp doing this type of works. But normally we used to use the magnifier more for the checks, the controls. It's not something that we're going to use 100% of the time, but it's more to check if the oil is properly applied on the components, or to check if we haven't scratched anything as well, of course. It's very important. And yeah, it's not something that we're going to use all the time.
I wish that was an option for us, because Simon can't see much and neither can I. This side, though, just quickly before we move on,
good watch, chat.
Because this is something maybe I like a little bit more than gearboxes. Here's some beautiful bags that you can get personalized in here, but of course there are other bags that you can go get out there in the world of bags. That is a very good looking one.
Like a Sainsbury's carrier bag.
That's an option too.
Yeah. Good. Right, what we do now?
Well,
should we go up to? No, that's the champagne bar, Kieran. We don't think we can go up there.
Well, let's go back this way to the terrestrial stairs.
Fine, and we'll find Crofty and Karun, who are going to wrap up the day. Let's get back to matters on track. Lads.
Thank you very much indeed, Simon. Welcome to the Skypad in the shadow of the Frit van here, and a smell of waffles that is permeating over the paddock. Max Verstappen's manager, Raymond Vermeulen, has just come for his afternoon waffles. They've run out.
Well, we can waffle along and see if he wants to listen to that instead.
We'll do that, shall we? Because there's a lot to waffle about. It's been quite the day of track action. There is your championship leader, Kimi Antonelli, climbing into his Mercedes, just 25 points in the lead now. And out they filed, apart from Fernando Alonso, Jack Crawford in his Aston Martin for this first session. Lando Norris, 10-place grid penalty for him as he goes into the weekend. And quite a bit of work on his car before we got going. Now, this is Liam Lawson struggling for grip.
Yeah, lots of drivers struggling early on in the session. The track, I think, was a bit green, and we heard a lot of comments from drivers on the radio who were struggling with lockups or the rear of the car sliding. George Russell talking about four-wheel sliding as well. Kimi Antonelli, though, he didn't have a balance issue. He had an issue with this man, Carlos Sainz, getting in his way down at the corner, Paul Frere.
And that cost Carlos Sainz a reprimand when he went to see the stewards. This incident cost him a reprimand, as he was meant to stay either in the pit lane or not cross the white line. He did a bit of a mixture, and that didn't help. That certainly isn't helping. Just the one upgrade on the Racing Bulls this weekend. Arvid Lindblad's got it, and Liam Lawson struggling through the chicane.
Yeah, got a big snap of oversteer here. Lance Stroll had a lot of understeer, and that put him into the gravel. And as we can see on the front, the front nose camera came off the car just with a vibration across the curb. The session ended, though, with Oscar Piastri pulling over initially to the side of the track, being told to stop the car, and then the team instructing him to drive back slowly. A hydraulic issue putting an end to his session.
But it left this man, Max Verstappen, as the fastest on track, 1:47.0, couple of tenths ahead of his teammate Isaac Hadjar. So a good start to the day for Max Verstappen. Lots of fans here getting some very good vantage points. That hydraulic point, though, problem for Oscar Piastri cost him 19 minutes of the FP2 session. By the time he got out, Lewis Hamilton had already done this.
Yeah, Hamilton going deep at the final bus stop chicane. And Carlos Sainz, this time on the other side of the fence, I should say, he was the one complaining about cars in his way there. We see the Red Bull just tipping a wheel into that gravel and got away with it.
And Max Verstappen complaining about the shifts on his gearbox once again. Now, here's Lando Norris getting all out of shape at the corner with no name. We had to red flag the session because there was a lot of gravel that had been kicked up. So that's the first of 2 red flags that we had during FP2. It allowed Oscar Piastri a bit more time in the garage to fix his car and then to get back out on the track. And still Liam Lawson pushing the extremities of those track limits and going a bit too wide again.
He had a few adventures in that Racing Bulls, ended up a little bit behind his teammate Arvid Lindblad. But Pierre Gasly, look at this, bit of understeer on the way in, then gets, I think, slightly offline with that understeer. Then the rear came around and put him off track. Couldn't avoid the end of the barrier, and that did a lot of damage to the rear of his Alpine.
That is quite the rebuild for a Friday night for the Alpine team that they're going to have to contend with. Nothing wrong with Pierre Gasly, which is great to see, even though the doctor was called down there. And nothing wrong with Kimi Antonelli's pace on the track. The only man in the 146s, championship leader, looking very much at home here at Spa.
Yeah, a devastating lap, really, and especially when you compare his pace to that of his teammate, George Russell, over a second away from Antonelli's time.
Well, hopefully that paints the picture for you as to what happened in FP1 and FP2. I'm going to go and find an artist. Simon, Naomi.
Well, let's take a look at our championship standings, starting with the Drivers' Championship. Antonelli leads the way with 179 points. His teammate, who was 68 points down in Monaco, has managed to close that gap down to just 25 points. Leclerc's win in Silverstone puts him just 39 points behind Hamilton, and the pair of the Ferraris are followed by both of the McLaren boys. Verstappen down in 7th, looking like he might be in with a fighting chance here. Unfortunately for him, his teammate, 52 points at the moment, has a 10-place grid penalty here. And rounding up your top 10 are Pierre Gasly and Liam Lawson, with only a 3-point gap between the pair. Moving on to the bottom 12, 4 consecutive points finishers puts Lindblad 2 points ahead of Behrman, who is tied on points with Colapinto. And then further down the order, Hülkenberg, Bottas, Perez and Stroll, all yet to score a single point. Moving on to the Constructors title, Mercedes are clear out in front with 333 points. Ferrari 78 points adrift, but with 2 wins in just 3 races, things are looking on the up for them. And McLaren are a further 76 points down. Red Bull, who have the fastest power unit according to the ADUO, are down in 4th on 128 points. And then the tightest battle on the grid for best of the rest is Alpine and Racing Bulls, with just 1 point splitting the 2 of them. Haas are arguably the most under-resourced team on the grid, but they lead Williams, Audi, Aston Martin and newcomer Cadillac, who are yet to score any points. Shall we hear from our championship leader? Here he is, Antonelli.
Hi Kimi, looked like a pretty decent turnaround for you today. I think it was in FP1 you described the car as edgy, and then obviously top of the pile in FP2. Just take me through that day and where that improvement's come from.
Yeah, we made big changes with the car, and it was a lot better. So that's a good direction. Of course, there's still a lot of work to do as a team, and as well with my driving. But yeah, it was a much better session, and now looking forward to tomorrow.
In terms of the rest of the weekend, what more do you need to focus on? And I guess the target is obviously to get another win under your belt.
Yeah, no, of course. We've obviously Silverstone was a great weekend, but came out with no points, which obviously hurt a lot. But this weekend obviously different one, new challenge, and the goal is to still maximize every session, every time I go in the car, and yeah, then maximize the result. But definitely today was a good end, and but now a lot of work ahead of tomorrow.
kind of running out of superlatives already, aren't you, for Kvyat? I know it's only practice, but he's just so wise beyond his years, isn't he?
He is, you know, and I think there's been a few little things, if I was to criticise anything, there's been a few little things like the yellow flag in qualifying in Austria, I think it was. I think last week in Silverstone, he, looking back, would have done something different with the issue with the car where he pitted immediately. So that is just experience. But, you know, I think Toto said from the outset, the kid is fast and we can work on all those other things, and they are working on it pretty quickly.
Right, technical delegates report. I'm going to have to zoom in on this. Thank you. Because I sat on my glasses, so they're broken copy.
Do you want me to read it for you?
Live on air. Following FP1, the Scuderia Ferrari HP team electronically returned 2 sets of dry weather tyres in accordance with articles B6 4.1, whatever. However, the corresponding tyres were not physically returned to the appointed tyre supplier before the start of FP2, non-compliant with article B6 4.2. That's on both cars. Last time Aston did that, grid penalty.
Yeah, so
tell us about it.
Just to explain a little bit, so at the end of P1, most people use 2 tyres in P1, then they have to be electronically returned in a system to tell Pirelli which tyres are given back and which you should have left. They're all bar-coded and scanned in and out, but they have to physically be sent back to Pirelli. Pirelli strip them. The reason that they have to physically be sent back is Pirelli start to look at them for any damage, any cuts, anything they need to change in the tyre, the pressures, for example, any safety issues. So they've not, when Aston Martin did it a long time ago, and it was a bone of contention at that point, we physically returned the tyres but didn't electronically return the right tyre.
Oh, okay.
So Pirelli physically had the tyre back, and we got a 1-position grid penalty for Nico Hülkenberg, and we were very, very sore, and still am very, very sore about that. But they've improved the electronic process. I think the fact that it's not physically returned is more of an issue. That is more of an issue, because the idea is you could have used that tyre for pit stop practice. Pirelli don't have all the right data. So I think, in my opinion, that needs to be more than a slap on the wrist. That needs to be some sort of penalty. I just asked, and I nabbed one of the Pirelli guys who was running by me. He doesn't know what the penalty would be, but I think we need to wait the outcome of that, because if Pirelli or the FIA let someone away with that this week, then where does it go from there? So I think there's potentially a penalty coming.
It's the age-old story about consistency, right? Like, even though we feel that this might be harsh to give a penalty for something like that if the tyres were returned, but it's just sort of procedural issue, it's harsh, but you've got to be consistent across the board, right?
Yeah, I think the only thing to that is it's neither driver's fault. It's not, you know, Lewis Hamilton is not running down to Pirelli with a set of tyres.
Is there a tyre guy getting the blame tonight?
Yeah, there's a tyre guy getting the blame for sure, but it's a team procedural thing, so maybe that means they try and hurt the team by some sort of fine rather than the 2 drivers who are not to blame.
They'll be feeling so guilty. I mean, I feel bad for the tyre guys, though, don't they? Because they do a great job. A thankless task sometimes, you'd think. You know, they get it, they're running around like headless chickens.
I'd be really interested to see how that happened, because they do this so often. You know, this is week in, week out stuff. And there was nothing untoward happening between P1 and P2. It wasn't shortened, or it wasn't like really raining, or there's not really an excuse for that.
Okay, take a short break. On the other side of that, we'll show you what happened when Arvin Lindblad went to Edgbaston to watch the one-day international, first in the series, actually, between England and India, obviously with his Indian heritage. That's next. We'll see you in a minute.
Audi sponsors Formula 1 on Sky Sports.
Meet the fully electric Volvo EX60.
Welcome to the Money Supermarket Training Academy. Okay, buckle up for your crash course in saving on car insurance. The good people of Britain are driving around when suddenly, bump! They get hit with a nasty car insurance quote. That's why it's our job to bring them our best deals and save the day.
Download the app and start saving today with Money Supermarket.
I'm used to doing things the hard way.
Morning, Ross.
Morning.
but I thought getting cheaper energy was just too hard.
Not now, though.
Off-peak energy is available at lots of different times, like during the day or weekends. Just check your energy company's website.
Even busy people like me can take advantage.
Just get a smart meter and choose a flexible scheme or tariff.
With a smart meter, getting cheaper energy is easier than you think.
It's okay, son. You with the AA?
It's okay, Doc. I'm with the AA.
With the AA, there's a driving service for pretty much anything.
Hey, Sainsbury's. They're growing quicker than my budget. Any help?
Well, colleagues like Charlotte here are always lowering prices with Nectar and matching prices with Aldi. Day and night. From strawberry season to spooky season. Through cold and rain
And tropical sunshine?
through tropical sunshine indeed. Because we're always matching and lowering prices. Sainsbury's, good food for all of us. Wow, they really did grow quickly.
Boxing is a criminal enterprise. Always has been and always will be.
This ain't about business, it's personal.
I'm gonna take everything away from him. There is a war coming.
Welcome back. Had a bit of rain in between sessions, but apart from that, weather's been very good here.